Hey, welcome back guys. Today we're looking at Dehancer in DaVinci Resolve. About a few weeks ago, they reached out to me via email asking me to review the product and give my honest review. You've probably seen like dozens and dozens of these videos on YouTube, but today I'd like to give you a deeper dive into Dehancer and how it works, and also I might look at the film look plugin now in DaVinci 19 and other ways that you can achieve the film look in Resolve. For starters, when you're in DaVinci, you need to work on your color management, and you need to make sure you know which footage is coming in, coming out. It's like a whole process chain. You need to know your color, your gamma of your footage, what type of footage you're shooting, and if it's coming in correctly. So in this case, I have Cinema DNG. I changed it to Blackmagic Design Film just to work off of that, to the color space and to the gamma here. And I just turned on highlight recovery, and then in your project settings, you want to pull these up. I'm doing 1080p timeline at 23976 frame rate, pretty standard. And then I have color management on DaVinci YRGB, and then you want to do the timeline color space. You want to do DaVinci wide gamut intermediate. We're going to be working in the DaVinci wide color space. So all the dials we turn, everything we do, we're going to be working in that color space. That's our timeline color space. And then our output color space is your typical Rec 709 Gamma 2.4, which is what my monitor is in front of me. I don't have a perfect color calibrated monitor. I have like an IPS monitor that I calibrated, but that's good enough for me in most applications. I'm not a professional colorist, so I'm going for Rec 709 Gamma 2.4. And if you got an issue with that, you can fight me. So in here, you want to have two nodes. I mean, you just hit Alt S to make a node, or you can right click or whatever, or Command S if you're on Mac. And then you want to go to Effects, and you need Color Space Transform. Also, everything I'm going to do today, I'm pretty sure you need the studio version of DaVinci to pull it off. So in the first node, I have the Color Space Transform. I want to do Blackmagic, some flavor of Blackmagic. I'm going to do 4.6K Film Gen 3. That's like pretty much what I'm coming from. And then I want to do Blackmagic. It should just be Blackmagic Design Film. Yep. And then I want to go to DaVinci. So I just type DA, and then I type DA, and I go to DaVinci Wide Gamut, and then Intermediate. And now I just created a DaVinci Wide Gamut in node. I'm just going to call it in. The next node, I'm going to call it out. And then on the next node, it's just the opposite. It's coming in as DaVinci Wide Gamut, and it's coming in as DaVinci Intermediate. And then I'm going to change it to Rec 709 Standard. And then I'm going to go to Gamma. And we're going to go to Gamma 2.4. So this node, it's getting converted into DaVinci Wide Intermediate. And this node, it's getting turned into Rec 709. And then look at that. We have a, let me full screen this. We have a little easy Rec 709 LUT with just two nodes. You don't need to use the manufacturer LUT. I guarantee if you use the manufacturer LUT for the Ronin 7D in this case, it would just get completely fucking crushed out and blown out, and the saturation would get all messed up and whatever. So once you have the in node and the out node, this is when you can kind of build your node tree within the sandwich. People call this a CST sandwich. You'll see plenty of videos online that explain how to do this. So within here, I want to add a couple nodes that I can like work with. And think of this as like layers. Like we're making layers within the sandwich that we're working with. So like we might need to correct a few things. So over here, I'm going to make a node far out, and then I'm just going to label this Dehancer. I'm not going to put anything on it yet, not yet. And then I'm going to put this as con. We can do contrast. And then we could do, this could be like EXP for exposure. This could be sat for saturation, like, you know, kind of run wild. And then always remember, you can hit Alt S to put a node in front. And then you can hit, if I go down this one, you can hit Shift S to go back. or Command S, or I think it's might be Control S on Mac, I'm not sure. But within here I got my contrast, exposure, and my set. In here the saturation's like kind of flat, so we're gonna go to saturation. We'll just go to the wheels over here, and this is kind of lazy, but I'm gonna do this right now. I'm just gonna add like 5 points of saturation on that. And then in my exposure, I want to get this like kind of a little more equalized. So if you don't have a color wheel, you can just use like your scroll wheel on these little dials on your primary wheels, and then we'll see, you should see the RGB parade kind of going down. So I'm gonna keep it kind of in the center, bring down the shadows like a tad, and then the mids. But what's cool is I can actually there's a free plugin. This is actually really cool. Dehancer didn't even tell me about this. I just found this on their website when they reached out to me. If I add a node at the end of the chain with Alt S, and then I search here, you can download this online. It's just called Dehancer Monitor, and this is a false color plugin for Dehancer. This is like, you don't need to buy the Time Pixels plugin anymore. I hate to say it, I bought that in the past. This is totally free. So if you drag this onto the node and then you check it on, we get false color now. And then if I full screen this, I can see, let me turn off the scopes. I can see like where her skin tones are falling, and I can see the background. So I can see the background is hitting like, I think it's like 90 IRE right here. And then I can see on her skin, we're hitting about 60 IRE. You know, I think this is like notches of 5 or 10. So she is, she has like mixed skin. So it's actually good to hit mixed skin around like 60 IRE to 50 IRE. If you're ever, and then if you're ever dealing with actors who have like really dark skin, you want to go for like 50 IRE or like 45, or kind of get down there, because you want to get that gloss on their skin and like, you know, give it the characteristics. For white people, of course, like people usually hit like, you know, 70 IRE or around there, or 60, 70, something like that. But it all depends on what you're shooting. In this case, we're shooting like promo commercial work, so it's not a big deal. This is just fashion stuff. So if I move the nodes around, I can hit clean up node graph. This is going to clean it up. And then we're going to go to Dehancer, and we're going to drag this right on, and boom. You're probably thinking right now, this looks terrible, right? Like, we can't use this. Look at this. What are we shooting through a handy cam? This ain't gonna work. So this is the thing about Dehancer, is when you apply the plugin, I'll be fully honest, like it doesn't look good. It does not look good. It's like it gives us this green tint, especially if you're working in a DaVinci color space, and then everything goes wrong. But here's the thing, is the plugin is not doing anything wrong right now. We're doing things wrong. So I'm not even going to adjust contrast, saturation, none of this first. I'm going to do Shift F to bring it full screen. And now we get this awesome screen where we get to work on the image. And then on our right, we have all these plugin. This is Dehancer Pro, all these plugin options that we can work with, which is awesome. And this I love this. Like this type of screen is awesome, because this feels like I'm in like a Lightroom, where I have like my side panel and then I have my footage. It's almost, it's like, it's really fun to work with if you have one screen. So if I go down to here and I go to all the way at the bottom, also you can hit Alt Enter, and you can open all the folders or close them all. If I scroll up, now it's like clean. We have everything here. I'm gonna go to Options, Disable All Tools. So now everything is off on the plugin, okay? So you want to start here. If you start here, it's like now you can start going down the process and applying things like very easily. So within the window of the input, we want to go to source on the top, and it says source DVR YG intermediate. That's what we're working in. So we're going to change that to our source. So in here, they also have, you can do choose camera. You can click like, you know, DJI, and then I could click like, I could click which camera I'm working with. So you can do a color space transform within the plugin, but I don't recommend doing it within the plugin. You can, it's like quick and easy. I might show it later, but I recommend just do like, you know, your typical CST sandwich, and then kind of work with that. So we're in here, that's good. And there is a tint comp in here. We might have to come back to this in a second. So I have it on DaVinci Wide Intermediate, and then I'm going to open, and I can go to films. So I recommend, in this case, I recommend start off with just your print film, which is just your positive film. So I realized that they have the Fuji film 3513 and then the Kodak 2383 print film, like, you know, pretty notorious film. So what happens here is pretty awesome. If you go to the print film for the Kodak and you just turn it on, you get a big pop, pretty much. And then within here, you have your target white, we can actually, in this case, it's really easy because we're on a white cyc. We can tell which was our target white. And then you can see your exposure and you can kind of bring it down from here. And you also have your tonal contrast within here. So you can do a lot of contrast adjustments and stuff. And you have your color density, which you can clearly see on her coat, which is just kind of giving us a different way to adjust saturation. And our saturation is here as well. So I'm actually going to turn the saturation down a little bit. But with most color grading, you're going to be going for like tiny little adjustments. It's just like working with images in Lightroom. Like most of these plugins are going to be applying like huge sweeping S curves and huge adjustments. So you really have to play with the plugin and play with your specific footage until you find it right. Like Dehancer is not, I don't think it's something where you can just shoot it and then just slap it on and it's like you're good to go. You need to, you know, get in the lab and experiment. So our print film's there. That's good. And then I want to do, we can show you the film. So if I go into here and I go to like, there's all these film stocks into Dehancer, which is like, to me, this is awesome because I recognize a lot of these names. So I shot photography for like plenty of years on still film photography, like 35 mil. And then I did 120. I got my 120 camera behind me right here. Recently, I've been shooting more like, you know, digital and then adding film presets on the top. But the thing about this is I recognize all these names. So when I see like Agfa color 100, I know what Agfa color looks like. It's always like, you know, kind of washed and it has like that red poppy look to it. And then there's different things like Portra 400 is like a, you know, notorious film stock. Most people know what that looks like. I will say the film stocks in here, some of them are very close. And then some of them, when I slap them on the footage, I'm like, yeah, that doesn't really seem accurate. But it could just be my footage and the way I'm interpreting it. But if I go into here and let's say, let's do like Fuji Superior, let's do 200. So Fuji Superior is really fun. Then we can apply that and we get a big, there's a big push on the color there. Like that just gets dropped down. And then we can do push pull, which is we're getting, that would be if we're, you know, developing it at a different ISO rating, which you would do in the lab. You can reset that and you can come back down here to your print stock. And there's other options you could change. Like you could do linear, you could do Cineon film log, which is really good for slapping a lot on after. And then you could do Fujifilm, which in this case, Fujifilm matches. So let's do, in this case, let's do Fujifilm 3513 print film. So we have that on top, and then we need to go up here to the tint comp. So if I turn the tint comp, because what happens is we get this like cast from working DaVinci Intermediate, so it's kind of green, and then we kind of adjust to the magenta end of the world. And then we have a temperature comp. In this case, I want to go for like a warm Fuji look, so I'm going a little warm here. And then there's also exposure comp, which is, you know, that's pretty drastic. But what's cool is if I get out of the screen and I go back here and I turn this on, I can now see my levels again. So I can see her skin's hitting about 60, and I see the background's about the same. So what you want to do, if you want to do a quick switch on and off, is you click on the node that you're working with. So in this case, this is the false color node. And then you full screen, and then you hit Control D, and you can turn it off. It's actually really useful when you're like analyzing films like I do for like the frame by frames. So in here we have, oh, the shirt's hitting about the same in the background, and then we have her skin's hitting about 60, 70 IRE, which is pretty good. And then we don't have any crazy peaking on her skin. Like we can only see a little bit of gray coming in here, which is about like 70, I think. We got my dog barking in the background. That's fun. So I'm going to close all these again. I'm going to go Shift F, and then we can start adding all different types of stuff now. So you can go crazy in here. So you have the big ones for the film look that they put in here that's really useful is you can do like halation or bloom, and you'll see so much stuff now with halation. So in this case, let's do 35. I'm going to do no rem jet, and then I'm just going to enable the halation. So it's kind of like blasting the fucking background here. I'm going to turn it down a little bit, and then we could do some bloom. Yeah, we're going to end up getting some bloom on her skin. So you can scroll in, move your mouse, and then we could do the bloom. And that's kind of like popping up her skin a little bit. It's not that bad. All right. I don't really like the halations messing up the background that much, but I'm going to say we're going to go for, I'm not really sure which look I want to go for here because I'm just kind of testing things out, but I kind of want to go for like a vintage warm look for this. So there's film damage and then there's also film breath. We're not going to do that. We're probably going to go to the film grain. So when you apply the grain, it rebuilds the image from the ground up for Dehancer. And it depends on how much you like grain or how vintage you want to make your footage look or what type of grain you're going for. But it is very harsh. So when I hit enable here, that's like boom, you know, that's, if I play this video, it's pretty grainy. Like that's kind of ridiculous. I mean, that would work for like, you know, certain things, like some people like that. So in this case, I don't really want that much grain. I want like minor grain. So I would go down here 65 mil. Well, this is like we're shooting on IMAX, and then I would go for like a low ISO film so I don't get a lot of grain. And then I'm at 10 right here. Let's bring it to like 15. And then let's do full screen. So we get minor grain here. That's pretty good. I can see it. I don't know if you can see it on the YouTube compression, but that's like very minor grain. Very nice. All right, that's not bad. And there's other things down in here, like you can apply a vignette. I haven't really found a perfect way to get the vignette to look. I mean, honestly, you can apply vignettes, or you can just do like an exposure vignette, like bump it up. You can apply vignettes within Resolve like pretty easily. So, and then there's also gate weave and film breath and also film damage. Film damage is going to add all types of, you know, artifacting on the screen and stuff like that. The main things that you'll be working in here is you're going to be using your film stocks up here, and then you're going to be using your print film. And there is a way where if you come up here, and we close all these, if you just disable the film stock, there's a way where you can just work with the print film. I mean, this is pretty bright in this case, but there's a shot later that I'll show you where I just used print film and it came out really good. So this is pretty soft. So let me get out of this. So now you have Dehancers doing a lot of work. So if I hit Control D on Dehancer, that's the Dehancer node. So if you full screen that, this is our Rec 709 color space transform that we had, and then that is with Dehancer. We're getting that look. Pretty cool. All right, so then we're gonna go back to here. We can go back to these nodes. So I have a contrast node here prior in the chain. So if I want to bump contrast here, I can, or I can kind of lower it down. I'm gonna go to 1, and then I'm gonna do like 95, I think. Let me see if that's, yeah, it just makes it like a little bit softer on her. It's fine. So that's pretty good. And then you could, the thing is you have your out node here and you have your Dehancer here. So like you can adjust anything before this chain and always go back. And this is a specific loop right now where we're doing Fuji Color Superior 200, which is like a convenience store film stock. And then we're putting it on 3513 print film, which is, this is actually applying a lot of the contrast. See, that's applying like the majority of the contrast. That's the film stock color, and then that's the contrast with the positive on top. But this look is, you know, pretty good. This would be pretty good for Instagram. It is kind of like that soft white background that you're not really looking for. And then I leaned into the warm tones too much. So right now I'm getting like a lot of warmth. But there is a way to correct the DaVinci Wide Intermediate Gamut. And then there's also, you can also like not even get that green tint if you just make prior adjustments either in like your camera raw or even in the in chain. Like you can even make nodes before the in chain here, where if you wanted to adjust the temp here. So if I go over here and I go to temp, I can totally adjust it. So this is before it even, this is me adjusting like the raw footage before it even hits the DaVinci Wide Intermediate Gamut. So if I go here and then let's hit the node and let's do like negative, let's do 200. No, let's full screen that. So that's pretty clean. That's like gets rid of the warmth right there. It's not that bad. And now we have this chain here. Let me clean up the node graph here. And then we'll just grab the still. So when we grab the still, now it's up here as a power grade that we can apply. So if I go to another clip over here, let's bring up the clips. We'll go to this shot here, which is, this is like similar lighting. I think it was the same lighting was active, and then we had the actor in different clothing. So if we go to gallery and we just do apply grade, boom, we're already in on the shot. And we're getting that like, you know, filmic soft look that we created. I mean, even in this case, we could add like glossy paper. So you could go back to Dehancer, Shift F to bring up the screen again. Let me close all these so you don't get overwhelmed. And then we go to print and we could go to glossy paper. And then we can give it like that glossy look. But in this case, it's kind of getting like magenta-y in a sense. So this is a new shot here. So what I would do in this case is this is a much darker shot. Is I would apply the grade like I did here. You know, it's way too dark here. So we would go to our exposure node here. We would go back to Dehancer, close all these things. And then we did adjust, I think it was on, yeah, exposure comp. We're gonna turn all these nodes off. We're gonna go back to that. And then we had, the exposure was adjusted on the print film. We're gonna reset all these nodes. And now we're back to like, you know, something to work with. And then we would go back to our exposure here. We could go down to our curves here. We could lift the shadows a bit if we wanted. Lift the highlights. Honestly, I'll go a little, do like a little S curve. And then we'll go to contrast here. Turn our contrast down. And then our in node, let's do temp here. Let me reset this node and then I will get that there. But we'll go for the warm look for now. If you have a color card, you can actually like avoid a lot of these issues. But so here you got something to work with, right? So if we go back to Dehancer and let's say we want a different look in this case, and then let's close all these and we'll go to film. Let's change the film stock. Let's do Kodak Color Plus 200. I don't really like that. We could do Portra 160. Nope. Let's try Portra 400. It's a little blue. And then we go to print film. Let's go to Kodak 2383. Boom. And then we got to go up here. And we're going to have to do the tint comp again. We do that. And then we have to do the temperature comp. All right. Let me see if I can get a like look at the temp more. So the temp comp, it's kind of like you have to adjust it a bit for film. I mean, the other thing is you're always going to have a little bit of tint going on in film footage. And then, yeah, I mean, that's not that bad. And we could go to color head. Within here, if you turn this on, you can adjust the color versus color. This is like kind of like your HSL or your DCTL sliders that you would use in certain programs. And you could adjust this if you need to. So within here, you have your shadows tone, your mid-tone, and your highlights. This is actually your temperature. So if I do mid-tones tone and I turn it all the way up, you can see our skin starting to get really warm. And if I go back, it's gonna turn kind of blue. So if I go to center, I can see it's a little warm. I want to go just a little bit warmer. Also, if I don't like the halation effect I'm getting here, I can turn that off. And let's say I want to add more halation. I could dial it up. And in this case, it's getting like kind of grainy because this was darker footage. I'm going to turn the grain off and then I get like a clean shot. So what's cool is like you can do this plugin and use all these tools within here to adjust color versus color, apply grain, use a print contrast, all these things. And then you could just turn off the film grain. So you can get the filmic like colors and rendering and contrast and then just turn off the grain, and then you're not getting this like obvious film look. Like you're getting more of like a clinical digital film look. And then you get something like this, which honestly, like that's a lot of footage now, like commercial footage and stuff, or just flip back. You get this like, you know, commercial look where you're getting like filmic tones, but you're not getting like the grain on screen. So it's really up to you what you want to use in here. And in that case, I mean, I could go to another shot. So let me go to a shot that I've already graded just to show you. Also, like this video, we're just kind of going all over the place and showing everything. So in this case, in this shot, if you'll see here, I grabbed this shot. Oh, why is it like that? That's because I have the clips on. So we got to fit this. So in this shot, I used a node tree created by Darren Mawson on YouTube, which I have my in node, I have my exposure balance node, my contrast node, saturation node, and then I have them split off into curves and temp here. And you can see there's no adjustments on here. There's nothing going on here. So this is just a node tree that you can just use. So you can also just create a node tree like this. And if I go to power grades and I go to node tree, I have it here, and then I just apply it. And now I'm just like everything's already labeled, and I can just kind of work from here, which is really useful. But in this case, I want to go back to the grade that I had. This footage I got off of Blackmagic's website. This was like Blackmagic Pocket 2K footage that was kind of like displaying the camera at the time. I did not get permission to show this footage, but I'm pretty sure you can just use it for like testing purposes, so it's not a big deal. I apologize if it's an issue, but so within this footage, this is kind of, we're getting like a film look of this like conductor guy. It looks like Polar Express kind of. So in here, when we go to Dehancer, let's see what we actually did here. So in here, I used Fuji Pro 400H, which is like, that's like portrait film that you would use on like 120 cameras or 35mm cameras. I will say, with this plugin, if you've shot 35mm film, or if you've shot 120 film before in the past, even for a couple of years, and you've tried different film stocks, this plugin is like easy to work with, because when you see the name Fuji Color Pro 400, you already know in your head like what that looks like. But if I was somebody entering Dehancer and I had like no experience shooting film at all, and I was just like learning the names of all these film stocks now, I would be pretty confused, and I would be in here like, you know, clicking every single one, and I'd probably start like forgetting which look a certain way. But for me, it's like really easy when I come in here, because I can see Fuji Color Pro 400. I can see like Velvia, which is, I know Velvia is like a very high saturation slide film for landscapes. So I know like, oh, if I hit Velvia, I'm gonna get like this, like, yeah, I'm getting this like crazy look. So I'd have to adjust for that. But if I go down here and I do, we can go to Fuji, let's do Fuji print film with Fuji stock. And then we're getting that kind of like that classic like green Fuji look, little tint to it. And then if we go back to Kodak, Kodak always has more of like a little magenta spin to it. So, and then we go, what did we enable? We enabled print film. We had a little bit of color density adjustments. I adjusted the saturation. It looks like I turned up the fucking saturation like big time. And then I pushed the stock a little bit here, which is pushing the stock in film terms is when you develop it at like a higher ISO rate, you get a little more grain out of it. And then if I go down to grain here, you'll notice this is actually, let me close everything for you. So if I go down to grain, you can see I have it on 35mm ISO 500. Let me go to like a little higher if I can. Actually 500 good. And then I only have it on 3. So if I turn it all the way up, I'm gonna get huge grain. But if I go to like 5 or 3, if I full screen this and I play it out, we go back, I'm getting like that. Oh, let me see if I can show you if I zoom in a little bit. See that? That's just like minor grain. That's like the audience will pick up on it and they'll feel it, but they're not really gonna see exactly the grain particles as much. And then let's go to his skin and I'll show you the like halation bloom and work. So if I turn this off, see that pop? See the rimming of the skin with the halation? That's like really useful. We're getting a little bit of that. You can turn that way up if you want. You just got a little bit of rim on the skin there. And then if we go to bloom, we can see, let's turn the bloom on. It's gonna pop his skin a lot there. So we're gonna turn it down. Let's go like 22. Let's full screen that. It's looking really good. That's good. I mean, to be fair, I did not shoot this footage. This is like really well shot footage. But if we pop out of this and we go to the nodes, let's turn the effects panel off. Get out of here. Pull up the nodes. This is off to the side for some reason. We're gonna fit that. And you can click up here to turn everything off, or you can do, I think it's Shift D. Yeah, you hit Shift D, and then you can turn everything off at once. If you ever want to like check something, you grab the still, right click, grab still, hit this little icon up here, and then hit Shift D, and then now you're, you know, moving the still over your footage. So if we go to like here and we do a little cut there, you can even press full screen, bring up the scopes, and you can see like the scope cut off and all that. pretty useful if you're trying to look at something like, you know, before and after. But this look is like really good. Like this is, if I turn off Dehancer here, that's my like Rec 709 look, because in this case, this is Blackmagic design video going in the chain, going to DaVinci Intermediate, and then ending here. This is a Rec 709 Gamma 2.4 node, but this is like most of my look is coming from Dehancer in this case. So when I turn it back on, like that's most of my contrast and most of my applications and stuff. And what's cool is I have this look done. So if I go here and I go to clips and I go to this shot, which is also from the Blackmagic design website, you can just hover over the clip here and middle mouse click and it'll apply it. And then if we go in here, we'll see it's applying it to this footage. And that's really good. You can also work in groups too. Like if you wanted to put this in a group, you could add this clip to a group, which is, yeah, add into a new group. We could do like filmic doc or something. Now it's in a group. And then we go to here, we could go to group, post clip, or group pre-clip. We can work in here and put a bunch of shots into here, into one group, and apply them that way. You can also work within timeline. I don't really recommend working within timeline. All right, lastly, I want to look at some Fuji footage that I shot. I want to show you like what you can do with a camera that doesn't really have as much dynamic range with Dehancer. So let's take this right here. Let's grab that still, and then let's go to my face here. This is like a studio shot that I was testing my new setup. And then this is just my shot. So we'll go here and we're gonna go apply, and this is not gonna look good. Oh, actually it does not look that bad. That's kind of funny. So I have a little bit of grain there, whatever. So in here, this is actually not Blackmagic design film. This is going to be Rec, because this is Fuji X-T3 footage, and then it is going to be coming in on F-Log. So we're going to go to Fuji, F-Log, Rec 709 2020 to Fuji F-Log, and then it goes in. So the thing is when you have the node tree finished and you have a look that you like, all you need to fix is the first node, because it's going into DaVinci and then it's changing over. So in this case, I'm going way too hard with all this contrast stuff. That looks like it adjusted it. And then if I go to Dehancer here, all I got to do, I would have to just scroll down, disable all tools, and now I'm working in this space. And I would want my shot to be a little more, you know, centered. So I'd bring it up to where I can kind of work from it from there. With the offset, I go into Dehancer. I can close all these. I can hit Shift F. We can scroll up. And now easily we can just start working in this space. And I'm getting like way too much pop on that. So I can see that my adjustment that I just made, that actually caused errors for me. So if I go back to here and I turn this off, now I'm actually working in a better area with Dehancer. And as you can see, like all I added just now, all I added was just the print film. So if I go to film here and I do Pro 400 again and I apply it, now I'm getting like a, you know, a softer look behind it. And then I can always go to expand here, enable this, and then I can kind of adjust my white points would expand here. And then if I wanted to come down here, I could go to film grain and I could apply that 35 mil that I did earlier with just a 5% 35. In this case, it looks kind of strong. So we're going to go for 65 mil, and then let's do 3%. And then let's just film that. And you can see the slight grain. This is me, you know, testing my footage or whatever. But honestly, like, it's pretty good. Like, the thing is you'll see a lot of people online, they'll do like halation and they'll do like bloom and they'll just like crank it up. Like they have like all this stuff, and then they'll go to like grain and it's like this, and it's like their footage ends up looking like this. And it's like, you can do all this like really harsh editing for film looks and stuff. You can do this in Dehancer, no problem. But also, like, the main draw of the plugin for me is just these minor adjustments, because like just having everything within one space is pretty useful. I think the main thing, if I don't, you know, yap on any longer and just show you the tools any longer, the main thing for me is just the application of the plugin right away is just very harsh and very like abrupt. And in order to use their plugin properly, you need to have like a little bit of information on how films work or how certain film colors work. And then you need to have a good understanding of your color space in and your color space out and where you are in the node tree. So it's not as simple. It's not like, you know, buying a LUT preset and then you get a LUT for a specific camera profile and then you just slap it on and it works like right away. I think this plugin is really useful for people that are shooters that want to adjust their footage and add grain and looks to them. But then at the end of the day, they're also not like professional colorists where, I mean, don't get me wrong, there is professional colorists that use Dehancer for certain things like halation, grain, the print film contrast, things like that, like little tiny adjustments. But I don't think a lot of people are going to be using Dehancer for like commercial work and then, you know, applying all the layers, like applying bloom, halation, using color head, using all these tools like slapping and unless they want to have that specific like vintage grainy film look. And what's cool is like within this plugin, if I want to make like a super 16mm look with like high grain and make maybe like the tungsten light look of Kodak stock, I can do that like no problem. And that's what's really cool. But you know, it does come at a cost. Like the lifetime cost is quite expensive, but yeah, I don't know. It's not, I think it's pretty good. Like I'm not that opposed to this plugin so far. And then what's cool too is like if you don't want to do any of this and you don't want to get Dehancer, there's actually a lot of features within Dehancer now within DaVinci Studio, which is the film load creator, which you come in here, you can do default 35mm film. You can get like a core look out of here. You can do like, you know, let's do cinematic. Actually, let's do Akasaska. There's a skin bias slider. Within here, like there's a lot of settings in here that are very similar to. So if I enable halation, you can see it pops up, but it's not as like pronounced as what you would see in like Dehancer, for example. But it's very, you know, very useful in here. Like for example, the vignette slider in here is more what I'm used to in like DaVinci, is very clean. So in the film look creator, you're kind of creating your own film look with DaVinci tools in here, which is really useful. And then with Dehancer, you're kind of like using set film stocks, and then you're using the print film on top. And then there's other features within there that you can kind of stack on. And it's more like, you know, kind of set. And like I said, like Dehancer really rewards people who have knowledge of film. Like if you know certain film stocks or you know certain looks, you can just see that name and you can get it right away. And then in the film look creator, this is kind of like resolves tools for you where you can kind of create your own look, you know, within here. And again, if anything in here like works really well for you, I recommend you take a still, you grab the still, you can go into your gallery, you can throw this in like a power grade folder right here. So you can move it to a power grade. And then now it's just in here in the power grades. So if I go into here, and then if I'm done, like if I shoot another YouTube video and I like this look, I can come in here and apply the grade, and that's it. And then now I'm already like good to go. You know what I mean? So work with power grades, work with nodes, and make sure when you work with Dehancer or with any film plugin, you always like disable everything and just kind of apply contrast, apply color, work slowly. And if there's something, if the footage coming in is like there's something drastically wrong with it, like let's say that the temperature is wrong, use a white balance qualifier, maybe use a color card, adjust your contrast prior, and just try to like bring in correct footage for these plugins, and then let the plugin kind of do all the little magic with the grain, the exposure, the halation, all these little things. But you probably don't want to be working with everything within the Dehancer node. You probably don't want to be making all your exposure corrections, all your contrast corrections within that node, because then you could be getting into trouble in that case. So it's always better to work from the initial footage. Like if you're working from the log footage or the raw footage, you kind of work from the initial beginning. But I've been yapping for a while about this plugin. I've been showing off different things, kind of playing with the tools. If you guys like this video, let me know. I can always do like another Dehancer tutorial or just a DaVinci color tutorial. I'm learning things as I go. I'm trying to do better. But yeah, if you're interested in that type of thing, let me know. And then Dehancer reached out to me for this video. They gave me a promo code. It's my name, Sharples. You can use it for 10% off, and then I'll get a kickback. I'd appreciate that to buy some coffee. Any money that I'm going to make off of affiliates or sponsorships or any things will always kind of be thrown back into the channel as we grow, as we make more videos. So, and then the other thing is, yeah, guys, I implore you to try more DaVinci Resolve, get into this color space, transform world, mess with these dials, play around, because like the possibilities are truly endless with log footage that's readily accessible today. You don't need the best camera. I'm shooting on a Fuji X-T3 right now, and I'm grading F-log footage, and it's like, it feels like I'm like working with film. It feels like I'm working with like these huge wide tools, and it's really useful. So color grading can like really elevate your work. Like you really shouldn't be just doing like Rec 709 and then just like a few dials of contrast and then just calling it a day, because then your footage is coming out too digital, it's coming out too clinical, the saturation's off, the exposure's off. But I recommend, you know, play around with these tools, maybe export a LUT, because you can go into here. If I go to a shot, if I go to Dehancer and you go down to here, all the way in the bottom, there's a LUT generator. You can export a LUT out of Dehancer. That's really useful. You could try shooting on set with the LUT as a preview, just kind of like shoot to those tones. That's a good way to get good exposure for your color, and just try to, like, you know, learn what you can, get more control over your image so people don't have control over your image later without you, you know, actively having your hands over it. So I always recommend, as a DP, you should shoot to your look. Like shoot it like it's film in the old days. Like don't, you know, just focus on the exposure, the lighting, the composition, and shoot to the look that you need. You should know IRE values that you want to hit. You should know like color looks that you want to hit, compositions, all these things. They all help you later in post-production. And then you get to the suite like this, and then it's just fun, and you're just kind of turning things up and down. You're like, oh, let me do a little bit of that, and it's like you're there. You don't have to go into the DaVinci Resolve and start, you know, jamming up the lift or messing with the gamma or the gain. And it's like you're just because you have like 14, 16 dynamic stops of range nowadays doesn't mean you should go on set and just shoot, you know, willy-nilly and just glance at the monitor and be like, oh, that's good, whatever. It's like, no, you should shoot to your look. Always shoot to your vision. You'll be able to just kind of, you know, fiddle with dials up and down, have fun, find a look that you want, save it as a power grade, and then use it on this project, use it on the next project, pass it around, share the knowledge. And it's, you know, it's just, knowledge is power in this world. So always control your image, control your vision, and get out there and shoot stuff.